Shalom, Boker Tov from the holy city of Yerushalayim, which for many, many people has received a great elevation in the last 24 hours since the announcement by the President of the United States of America that America will now accept the obvious truth that Yerushalayim is the eternal capital of the people of Israel and of the land of Israel, and always will remain so. And only those who accept that fact are going in the direction that God Almighty is taking history. Where there are a few ructions, I hear helicopters here from our neighborhood that are hovering over the Arab areas of the city of Yerushalayim, and nobody is expecting that to go on for too long, although we may be surprised and the Almighty might be taking us in a rather swifter path than we had expected. I do recall just a couple of months back on October the 5th of this year that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, said that it could be that we are, or shall I say, were in the calm before the storm. And I think that makes all the more relevant if we are approaching this storm today. I think it's going to make it just all the more relevant that we are engaged in our studies of the Torah. Before I continue, I would like just to check that you can hear me okay. I would welcome some feedback in the online Bet Midrash if I can be heard in a normal tone of voice. My audio settings here are just a little surprising for today. Please do give me a response if the audio levels are okay at the moment, or those who are watching live on YouTube, if you could just send a message if audio and video are okay, or if there's anything that needs to be adjusted. Please, before I do go on, just message me. See and hear, okay, thank you very much. So in that case, let us proceed. Before we do proceed, let me note that, God willing, our studies in this kollel will be going ahead next Sunday and Monday. However, for the rest of next week and the early part of the week afterwards, we are, thank God, coming to the Festival of Lights, to Chanukah, and our normal time of joining together in this class is at 1600 hours in Eretz Yisrael, which is precisely the time that we are davening mincha here, going to mikveh before the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. And for that reason, I will not be able to offer kollel classes during the Hanukkah festival. I do hope, with the hope of God, to be able to give a hookup on the Sunday of Hanukkah. That is Sunday the 21st of, Sunday the 14th of December, and that will be at the hour of 19:30 hours Israel time. I will be sending further information about that Hanukkah hookup, but during Hanukkah itself there will not be kollel in our normal hours, and the next meeting of the kollel after Hanukkah is scheduled, God willing, for the Thursday after Hanukkah, and I've just got to check that I've got the right, I don't want to mislead anybody here, we are going to be, for some reason my diary here has gone a little haywire. We will be I really do apologize about this. I set it all up and it's all gone a little haywire over here, and I'm not quite sure why this diary is not coming up correctly. Here we go. We will have call classes, God willing, next week. That is on the 10th and 11th of December. And we shall have, God willing, a hookup on the 17th of December. I got my dates all wrong before. It's working well now, it seems. 17th of December, Sunday 17th of December. And then we will revert to the normal kollel hours, God willing, on Thursday, the 21st of December. That is the 3rd of Tevet, all being well. And then continuing 24th, 25th of December. I think those are appropriate days to strengthen ourselves in the study of the Torah. So that is our kollel sessions in the coming period. With that, I would like to move forward to our class today on the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and let us go ahead with that with the help of God right now. Shalom today. Let's do that again, please, as well. I'm very sorry about a few little glitches over here today. Here we go. Shalom, today the 19th day of the month of Kislev of the year 5778. Very auspicious day, known particularly by the Chabad Hasidim as the Chag HaGeulah, the festival of redemption. And we certainly feel that redemption here in the air today in Yerushalayim on this very auspicious day, 7th of December 2017. And now we come to our study in the Mishnat Sofrim of Rabbi Yitzchak Kagan, the Chofetz Chaim. We come to the Hebrew letter Pei, kefufah. The Pei in the form that it takes when it is written in the beginning or the middle of a word. And the letter Pei has the most fascinating and beautiful form, and this is like one of the optical tricks whereby if you look at the letter Pei one way, you see what we know as the form of the letter Pei in black lines, and if you look in white inside the black, you will see the form of the letter Bet. And this is a very precious fact about the letter Pei. The Hebrew word Pei means the mouth, and the mouth would suggest the written Torah. The letter Bet is the beginning. The letter Pei would, the mouth would suggest the oral Torah, and the letter Bet is the beginning of the written Torah, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, word 1, Bereshit. So the letter Pei is actually a combination of essentially two letters in itself, besides the form of the Pei and the Bet. The essential form of the letter Pei is made up of a chof, and adjacent to the chof on its left-hand side, but upside down, is the letter Vov. So if you contemplate the letter Pei, ignoring for a moment on the white Bet, on the right-hand side of the Bet at the bottom, the akev, the heel, but generally speaking, the form of the letter Pei is to be understood as a chof joined together with a Vov. You can see now, Bezrat Hashem, how the letter Pei is made up of the chof on the right hand side and the vav upside down, as it were, from its roof. Well, now chof and vav, that is of in gematria 20 and 6, the gematria of the divine name Shem Havaya, the name of Hashem. Chof 20 and vav 6, and then we have this configuration of these two letters, which the letters chof and vav, which come together in various other Hebrew letters, that some of which we've already encountered, as in the case of the lamed, where the chof is where the vav is on the upper left side of the letter. Then we have the we've seen the letter mem, which is made up of a chof with a vav adjacent to it on the right-hand side, but the vav in its normal upright position. And we have had the letter tet, which is likewise made up of a chof and in this case the letter zayin, but again there is a close relationship between the zayin and the vav. So we see these letters joining one with the other. And with that, let us begin now specifically to address the form of the letter Pei as it is written in the Sefer Torah and the Tefillin and the Mezuzah. As a general description of the letter Pei has a number of different parts. The overall size of the letter should be 3 kulamusim wide, 3 breadths of the nib wide, but 4 kulamusim tall. And the reason for having the letter 4 kulamusim tall is to enable the particular shape of the bet in white inside the letter Pei to be very clear. And for that reason, as you can see here in this script, this before you on the screen is a script of the Pitum HaKetoret, as it is traditionally written on parchment, so that people who wish to enhance the recital of the Pitum HaKetoret, the contents of the Ketoret incense sacrifice in the temple, to enhance their recital of this by reading it from Hebrew script. Here you see an example of the letter Pei, which has the outline in black of the Pei and the letter Bet inside it. And you can see how the base of the Pei is actually below the line of the other letters. If you look every place where you have a bet kefufah in this script, you will see that it does extend down, and this is the 4th kulamus. In other words, it's as if the base of the bottom of the letter bet is aligned on the line upon which the other letters are standing, and the actual base of the Pei is going down beyond the line. Here, another example of the letter Pei here in the word Lifnei Hashem Ledorotechem. Lifnei, again, the letter Pei, you can see clearly extending down below the baseline of the other letters. So that is why the letter Pei is 4 kulamusim in its height, to enable us to have the roof of the Pei. We are not taking into account the height of the thorn on the left-hand upper side of the Pei, which is really the base of the upside-down vav. But from the top line of the roof of the Pei, we have the roof itself is 1 breadth of the nib wide, and the base is also 1 breadth of the nib wide. So between the two, between the roof and the base, in order to enable the Pei, the roof of the Pei and the base of the letter Pei, those are 2 kulamus, and 2 kulamus taken up by the writing of the letter bet, by the formation of the letter bet through the lower part of the roof of the pei and through the upper part of the base of the pei. There has to be at least 2 kulamusim, if not more, so that the outline of the letter bet will be very clear. So it's precisely to make that bet very clear, which it's a tradition among the Sofrim that it should appear in this way. That's why the pei is actually written slightly larger than other letters. Now the space between the bottom of the upside down Vov and the top of the base of the bottom of the pei should be 1/2 of a nib breadth of the pen wide, to make sure that the Vov is not touching the base of the pei. In other words, the outline of the letter bet in white inside, the roof and the base of the pei each are respectively 1/2 of a kulamus wide, and with the head of the Vov jutting inside the pei, that's another kulamus. So altogether we have 4 kulamusim in the height. And with that, let us now turn to the Chofetz Chaim's teachings in the Mishnah Sofrim. And in order to make the understanding of the study clearer, let us accompany it with the very excellent illustrations in the translation, English translation of Mishnah Sofrim, which is referenced on our Azamra study page. So I'd like to have that in front of us on the screen before we do enter into the study of the laws of the letter pei kefufah, so that it will be clear to everybody the various distinctions we're going to be making in the writing of this letter. So l'chatchila, from the outset, the outline of the right-hand corner of the pei should be square on its inner side. This is to make the shape of the letter bet very clear inside. The scribe should square it on the inside. However, on the outside, it's almost but not quite squared. It's actually slightly more than 90 degrees, the angle as the outside. The inside of the bet must be squared. The inside of the pei must be squared in the upper right. The outside will be an angle of somewhat more than 90 degrees, and the right hand outside should be curved. And as it comes down, it is curved on the outer side. So we have indeed here a form that is reminiscent on the outside of the letter bet somewhat. It's somewhere between a bet and a chaf at the upper right. At the bottom right, it's curved like a chof, and the scribe has to develop a skill of, as he draws the pen down on the right-hand leg of the pei, and he's drawing the right hand outwards on the curve, he has to have a certain ability to put his nib on a diagonal in order to create the narrow part down below, which is forming the outside outline of the right-hand heel of the white bet. In other words, the right-hand line drawn down from the top to the bottom is all one continuous line, but the scribe has to have a certain skill to turn and twist his pen in order to enable the this heel of the bet to come into being. As one can see here in the Torah script, all of this, as written in the parchment, all of this is accomplished with a pen. This is not obviously being printed, and it's quite a skill to do this. So now, as we've said, the lower right-hand side of the letter Chof has to be curved, as in the case of the Chaf, the Nun, and the Tzadik, and on the inside it's drawn at an angle in order that the hollow space inside the pei will appear as a bet. So the hollow inside of the pei should be at least 1.5 kulamusim high. As we've seen, it's preferable to make it even more. We've seen that it's preferable to make it 2 kulamusim because we need this nekuda, as it's called, this point, which is the head of the upside down vav, to be coming inside the face of the pei to create the letter base. Now, this must not be touching at any side. There must be no touching of the vav. It must be in contact with the roof of the pei, but it must not be touching on the inside, either any of the 3 insides of the pei. Now, the bet is not to be accomplished by the scribe by making a protrusion on the right-hand base. This is the correct way to write the letter pei is with no protrusion on the outside right-hand side. As I've said, the accomplishment of the letter bet is not to be made by extending the base of the pei outwards to make a good-sized heel for the bet. It is accomplished by this maneuver with the pen to maintain the line outside unbroken and without any protrusion on the right hand outside, and all of the heel of the bet is created by the turn of the pen diagonally to create that heel of the bet. Well, now the Mishnat Sofrim here brings at some length cries of the poskim, of the halachic adjudicators, about the problems which many scribes had with creating the letter bet as it should be. And he's very emphatic that we must not break the essential outside curve of the pei just in order to create the letter bet, because halachically the letter bet, even without its heel, if it is written squared on the lower right-hand side, the jutting out heel is melachatchila from the outside to be written, but b'diavad, if it was not there, the letter bet itself would be permitted in a tefillin or mezuzah, if it could not be, since it could not be corrected, and therefore b'diavad, a bet even without the jutting out right-hand heel is actually kosher. So to break up the writing of the pei for the sake of something that even by the bet is not halachically required, b'diavad, is not proper to do. So now coming to the form of the vav. The form of the vav that is upturned has to be, it starts off with the, as we know, the vav, when it's in its proper direction, comes down to a narrow point at the bottom, and then in the pei, where the vav is upturned, that and flipped around, that point is in the form of a kotz coming at the left-hand top of the roof. And for that reason, since this is an upturned vav, then the curve at the head of the vav has to be maintained on the outside, just as in the letter vav when it's written the right way up and not flipped. The right hand top is curved. So too in the writing of the upturned and flipped around vav of the making of the letter pei, we have to make very sure that there's the curvature of the head of the vav, and then what is here now the base of this upturned vav has got to be horizontal inside to the face of the pei. And it will be a complete error by the scribe if he got the vav pointing the wrong way round. In other words, if the vav was written with its head overturned, facing outwards, that even b'di'avad, if it was already written, even so, it might still be pasul, invalid. So again, if the vav were touching any point inside the pei, even at its, however slight the connection, if it's not the required point of contact, then that letter would be pasul. So again, the vav should not be written with the beginning in the middle of the roof of the pei. That would create problems similar to those created by a scribe who wrote the left leg of the hay halfway under its roof, and that is a question for sofrim, if and when and how that can be corrected. So finally, if the vav was not connected to its roof, but a child reads it as a pei, it would still be permissible to correct the letter even in tefillin and mezuzahs after having written further. But if the vav were written without a head, in other words, if the line coming down from the roof of the pei just ended without extending into the head of the vav inside, then the letter pei would be pasul. So with that, we conclude for today our studies of the Hebrew letters. And with the help of God, I'll be back in just a few minutes for our next very wonderful session as we come to the absolute climax and conclusion of this love song between God Almighty and Knesset Israel in Shir HaShirim. Back in just a few minutes now. Shalom again, my dear friends. Shalom. Let us now just get ready and primed for our study today of Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. I hope that you can all see me and hear me today. We've had a lot of obstacles here in the background today, causing everything to be a little more regular chad, I'm afraid, than it should be. But let us hope that this will more than be compensated for by the amazing sections of Shir HaShirim and their interpretations by our Meforshim, by our commentators that we'll be studying today. Shalom, today, the 19th day of the month of Kislev of the year 5778, corresponding to the 7th of December of the year 2017. Today, Chag HaGeulah, the day of the Histalkut of the Maggid of Mezrich, and also the day of the release of the Alter Rebbe of Chabad from prison. And today we come to the study of Shir HaShirim. We are now in chapter 8 of Shir HaShirim, and before we actually go into the verses that we shall be studying today, let us first understand the structure of the parashiot in the sections that follow, and we are looking at Shir HaShirim from chapter 8, from verse 5, Mizois Oilo Min HaMidbor, who is this coming up from the wilderness attached to her beloved, which comes immediately after the previous verse, verse 4 of chapter 8, which, as one can see in the handwritten cloth parchment, the oath of the beloved to the maidens of Jerusalem. I've adjured you, maids of Jerusalem, lest you arouse and stir up the love until it desires. This is the end of a parasha, and now comes a new parasha in the Hebrew text, Mizois Oilo Min HaMidbor, who is this coming up out of the wilderness, and this parasha goes on. Let us present this clearly for those watching on the screen. This goes on to the end of the verse, Lo Yavuzu Lach, they shall not despise you, the end of verse 7. In other words, here we have verses 5, 6, and 7 are one parasha by itself. And then comes a new parasha, Ochislon Ktano, our little sister, which begins at verse 8 of chapter 8, and is a short parasha, just going of 3 verses, 8, 9, and 10, followed by the concluding parasha of Kerem Hoyo L'Shlomo. King Solomon had a orchard or a vineyard, and that parasha goes through to the end of this amazing Holy of Holies, through to the end of chapter 8, verse 14. And the fact of these divisions of the parashiot here points to the kind of love duet that is going on today in this section that we're studying between the two, between the lover and his beloved. And we shall see the very amazing ways in which our Meforshim, the Metzudat David, giving us a simple delineation of the pshat and the nimshal, the meaning of the parable, and then looking at Rashi, who will give us a more midrashic approach before we fly off into the flighty heights of the Targum, which adds entirely new dimensions to this. So having established that we are here in a section which is rather different from the middle sections of Shir HaShirim, which were lengthier discourses by the lover and the beloved, with the occasional turning to the daughters of Jerusalem for a very slight refrain. Now we are leaving behind, it would seem, the daughters of Jerusalem, the other nations, and having the closing love songs and love messages of the lover to his beloved and the beloved to her lover, expressing the eternity and the unquenchability of the love between them. So turning now to verse 5 of chapter 8, Mizois Oilo Mina Midbor, coming immediately after that previous verse of adjuration to the daughters of Jerusalem. Mizois Oilo Min Hamidbor Misrapekes al Doido Tachas Hatapuach Orarticho Shomo Chibloscho Imecho Shomo Chiblo Yoroscho. Mizois, who is this? Oilo mina midbo, she's coming up out of the wilderness. Misrapekes, as we shall see, this is a Hebrew root that appears only here in the whole of Tanakh and is interpreted as being an expression of attachment and connection. She is supported upon her beloved. Well, now, bang in the middle of this verse, there's a shift because it's speaking about her, but then it immediately goes to second person singular, Tachas hatapuach orarticho, under the apple tree did I arouse you. Shomo chiblosecho imecho, it was there that your mother had the chevlei leido, the pangs of birth. Shomo chiblo yolodescho, it was there that indeed there were the pangs of she that gave birth to you. So clearly here she is addressing him in a way that is really quite outrageous, as we shall see what she is really saying to him, that she aroused him and she is his mother. We shall come to that in the commentators. And then she goes on in this call to him to keep her close to him as the very seal on his chest. Simeni kachoisom al libecho, kachoisom al zroecho. Put me like a seal upon your heart, like a seal upon your arm. Ki azor kamoves ahavo. For fierce as death is love. Love will transcend and conquer death. Koshe kishaol kin'o. The jealousy is harsh as hell. Rishofeho rishpe'esh. The coals of fire of the love are the coals of the coals of fire. Shalheves yo. It is a very veritable flame of God. Abundant waters shall not be able to quench the love. The rivers shall not sweep that love away. If a person were to give all of the treasure of his house to pay for it, to try to dispel that love between you and me, Buz Yavuzulo, they would despise him. Well, turning to our Meforshim on this parasha, let us first look at the explanation of the Metzudat David. Coming then to Metzudat David on chapter 8, verse 5. Mizois Oila, who is this coming up from the wilderness? Ato tishlach amoreo el achoshuk. Now she is sending her words to her lover. And this is what she says. Who else could there be besides this, me? Who could there be besides myself that went up out of the wilderness, out of a place of devastation? And even there, she never joined herself. Even there, she was joined with her lover. She was never separated from him. Hanimshal, the meaning of that parable is as if Knesset Yisrael is now saying to God Almighty, who ever believed more in you than I did, to the extent as to go after you in the wilderness, in a land that is not sown? Well, that is the more straightforward commentary of the Metzudat David on that verse. Let us now turn to the commentary of Rashi here. And Rashi here is bringing us to a quite different level of midrash on this verse. Rashi on chapter 8, verse 5. Mizois, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu veis dinoi oimrim al Knesset Yisrael. It is the Holy One, blessed be He, and His heavenly court that are saying about Knesset Yisrael, the assembly of Israel. They are now praising her. Mizois, in the words of our text, he paraphrases, Kamo hi chashuvo zois, how noteworthy and important is this one, shenis alto min hamidbo, bechol matonos toivois, she came up out of the wilderness with all of these good gifts. Shomnis alto b'matan Torah, there she was elevated through the giving of the Torah, ubedibuk shchino, and through her attachment to the divine presence. V'nirei schibos lechol v'oidenu b'goluso, her being cherished by him was visible to all, even when she was still in her exile. And now she's coming up out of exile. Misrapekes al doido, says Rashi, mischaberes al doido. She's attached to her beloved. Moide shehi chaverosoi udvuko boy. He here is acknowledging that she is his attached one, and she is connected and bound with him. And Rashi explains the root of the word in the Hebrew text of Shir Hashirim mitrapekes, repek beloshen arvi ripkeso chavuro. The root repek in the Arabic language is found in the Arabic word ripkator, which is a chavura, a bond, an attachment of a group of people joined together as one. Well, now Rashi, commenting on this phrase, Tachas hatapuach urarticho, kach hi oimeres. Rashi now goes back in line with the Metzudat David, who had explained the whole verse as in her mouth, but it's now she is saying, I stirred you up under the apple tree. She's saying, Bevakasha, she's entreating Chibas Doido through the love of her beloved, Tachas hatapuach oirarticho, under the apple tree did I stir you up. Zechor ki betachtis har Sinai he'osui al reishi kemin tapuach. Remember how the underside of Mount Sinai that was put over my head like a kind of apple. Shom orarticho, there did I stir you up. There's a well-known midrash that God forced Israel to receive the Torah at Sinai. The midrash says that he turned Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, over them like a barrel, or a gigit, like a heavy flask, and said, well, you don't accept the Torah, I'm going to let the whole thing come crashing down on your heads. And the Hebrew word tapuach, which we translate as apple, is actually from the word nafach, which means to breathe in or to cause to swell. A tapuach is a swollen fruit, like a tapuach adama, a swollen fruit of the earth, is a potato. So the concept of tapuach is something that's swollen, the form of a barrel, which was the form of Mount Sinai over the head of Israel. He pretty much forced them to accept the Torah. If they would not survive. But here she is saying to him in this very audacious request to remember her. She's saying, remember how I stirred you up under the apple tree. We've already had, right at the earlier part of Shir HaShirim, in the early praises, between one of the first things she says about her lover is Ketapoach ben atzi hayar ken doidi ben abonim, just like the apple tree and among the fruits of the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. So here the tapuach is now alluding to Sinai in Rashi's commentary, and that's where she stirred him, says Rashi, this is an expression of the love of the wife of youth. She is stirring her beloved during the nights. During the slumber upon the bed. She embraces him and she kisses him. So Rashi here is so beautifully evoking the yearning with which she is sending up her thoughts and prayers to him to remember the giving of the Torah. And presently we shall see the way that Targum takes this. There your mother had the pangs of birth for you. Well, here she's talking to him and she's calling herself his mother, that she then gave him birth. We've already said in Rashi's commentary on the earlier part of Shir HaShirim, that is in chapter 3, the last verse of chapter 3, verse 11, go out and see, you daughters of Zion, the king Shlomo, the king to whom is peace, with the crown that his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day of the rejoicing of his heart. That was the wedding of Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. So here Rashi is alluding to this, and we've already said that the Holy One, blessed be He, called her his mother at Sinai because there she became his people. In Hebrew, the Hebrew word for a people is the ummah, and the mother is the M. So the two words are very closely related. And we have the double expression here in this verse of Shoma chibloscho imecho, Shoma chiblo yolodscho. There your mother had the pangs, and there to have the pangs, the one that gave birth to you. Well, just before we turn to the Targum, just let's complete take a look at the Metzudat David now. On the same part of that verse, under the apple tree did I stir you up. He says, the Metzudat David now, even while you were under the apple tree, there I stirred up my love for you. This is her speaking to him. There came to your mother There I stirred up your love for me, and there came to your mother the chavalim, the pangs from you. And just like there came the pangs, there too did she give birth to you. It's as if she's saying from the very beginning of your coming into the world, that is to say, God's first revelation into the world, under the tree of the tapuach, that there you were born, there immediately I aroused your love for me. And here the nimshal is as if to say, from the very time that your mark, your stamp went out into the world, from the very beginning when God's nature was known in the world, I have had faith in you. Because through Abraham, our father, was God's name made famous through the world, and he and his seed are drawn after the Almighty. So with that now, let us turn to the Targum on this verse, because the Targum takes us in a very remarkable direction, coming again after her adjuration to the daughters of Jerusalem not to stir up the love until it is aroused by itself. And as we saw, Targum had taken that as Mashiach speaking to Knesset Yisrael and saying, don't try to force the redemption too soon. Don't rebel against the nations. It will come in its proper time. And then on verse 5, Targum says, Omar Shlomo Nevio, said Solomon the prophet, Kad Yechun Messiah, Osed le'is bezur tur mishcho, when the dead will be coming back to life, the Mount of Olives is going to be split asunder. He's referring here to Zechariah chapter 14, the war of Gog and Magog, when on that day, the day known to God, the Mount of Olives is split asunder from east to west and retreating to the north and retreating to the south. And continues Targum on this verse, all of the dead of Israel are destined to come forth up from out under the Mount of Olives. Even the tzaddikim that died in exile are destined to go via underground tunnels and to come up from underneath the Mount of Olives. But the wicked that died and were buried in the land of Israel are destined to be cast out. Just like a person casts a stone from a sling. And that is the introduction of the Targum to what he now translates of the verse more directly. Therefore, all of the inhabitants of the earth will say, Mo'ava zechuso, de amo hodein, de solke min aro, riboy ribvon, kiyom de salkas min madbero la'ard Yisrael. What was the merit of that people that came out up from the land in their tens of thousands and tens of thousands, just as on the day that they came out from the wilderness to the land of Israel? They will be delighting in the love of their master as on the day that she was bounded in boundaries under Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. At that hour, Zion, who is the mother of Israel, is destined to give birth to her children. And Jerusalem is destined to receive the children of the exile. Well, now, I think what is very important from the point of view of hashkacha to draw out from this verse is the parallel between the climax of the war of Gog and Magog, which is the miracle of the splitting asunder of the Har HaZeisim, the Mount of Olives, as described in Zechariah chapter 14. And from Zechariah 14, it would not be evident what is the midrash of this whole episode, which is actually the Techias HaMesim, the arousal of the dead. So here, Targum is telling us that Shlomo HaMelech prophesied until that point, and I think one of the most important things is to understand that Targum is drawing the parallel between this future event of the splitting asunder of the Mount of Olives and Tchiat HaMetim with the giving of the Torah. He is pointing out there is an intrinsic connection between the two. This is already implicit from the time of Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, our father, dreaming at Mount Moriah, sleeping on the mount, when he dreamed the dream, and he dreams the dream of the Sulam, the ladder. Sulam is in Gematria Samach Lamed Mem, Samach 60, Lamed 30, Mem 40, that is 130, the same as Sinai. Samach 60, Yud 10, Nun 50, and Yud 10 also 130, Sinai and Sulam, same gematria, because the Temple Mount, which is the place of the foot of the ladder of ascent to heaven, is intrinsically connected with the idea of the Torah given in Sinai. The Torah had to be brought up to Mount the Temple Mount and given its resting place in the Ark of the Covenant on the Temple Mount. So Targum is telling us that this future event prophesied in Ezekiel chapter 14 is indeed the consummation of Matan Torah, the continuation of Matan Torah. So here we have, according to all of the Meforshim, we have the idea that there is this unbreakable connection between the Holy One, blessed be He, and Israel, which was beginning at Sinai with giving the Torah, which itself was in the merit of Abraham, our father, and so. With that, let's go forward onto the ensuing verses, and we now come to verse 6, after that expression of her absolute fidelity to him through the bond of Torah, she now says, Simeni chachoisom al libecho, chachoisom al zroecho, put me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, ki azo kamovis avo, koshikish al kino, rishofer rish be'esh shalavesiyo. For fierce as death is love, fierce, harsh as hell is jealousy, and it's flashes or darts, the flashes of a blazing flame, shalheves yo, the flame of Yud K, the flame of God. Well, on this verse, Metzudat David says, Simeni, after all that, lochein, therefore, sim'oisi alibucho, leval tazuzu avo la'olam, put me upon your heart that the love should never depart forever, it should never move away. Just like a seal that is put upon the hand, the seal on the ring that is on one's hand and never moves from the hand, like a seal upon your arm, and also like the ring that is on the hand. So put me upon your arm so closely. This is says the Metzudat David, a repetition of the matter in different words. Well, we shall see in the Rashi and Targum what they do with these differences in the seemingly repeated phrases. Let us just note that we have here two seals, and it's an important part of Chassidut and of the halacha also. There is the chotam betoch chotam, the seal within the seal, the outer seal and the inner seal, corresponding to the head tefillin and the hand tefillin, and many other parallels. We shall come to that presently. Continuing now, ki azo chamavis avo, for fierce as death is love. She says, the love that I have for you is strong as death. Because my love stands against death. Death cannot nullify the love I have for you. I would rather accept upon myself death than to have me turned aside, to have my love for you turned aside. And for that reason, it's only fit that you should not turn your love away from me. The nimshal, the reference of the parable, is completely unified with the mashal. She continues, kosher chishoel kino. Love and jealousy, our sages said, have to be with one another. Any love where the lover is not jealous for the unique fidelity and loyalty of their beloved is not complete love. Hakino hudavar kosher ki yirido el shaul. Jealousy is harsh, like descent into hell. It's as if she's saying in this, if you will turn aside that love to become any more separated from me once again, it will be very hard for me to suffer the jealousy I will have when I see those maidens, the girls of my age, who will be sitting with their husbands all in delight and joy. I should be alone and isolated. She's saying, if any more I have to sit in exile. It will be very hard for me to see all of the nations sitting in their land, securely and with tranquility, and I will be in exile and in distress. The glowing coal of love. It's like the coals of fire. Like a great flame. That is to say, my love for you is guarded forever, like the heat of a coal that endures for a long time. It's like strong, like the flame of fire, a great flame of fire that burns fiercely. We already understand enough about this mashal to understand how the nimshal is completely bound up with it. Turning now to Rashi on that same verse, after that expression of love alluding to giving of the Torah, Rashi on Song of Songs, chapter 8, verse 6, Simeni kachoisam lebecho, put me like a seal on your heart. Bishvil oiso avo, tachtemeni alibecho, shelo tishkecheni. For the sake of that love, put a seal on your very heart that you will never forget me. V'tirei ke'azo kamoves avo. And you will see that fierce as death is love. Ho'avo she'avticho olai, k'neged misosi shani nerakti olecho. See the love that I showed for you through my death, that I allowed myself to be killed in martyrdom for you. Koshe kish'ol kino, harsh as hell is jealousy. Hatagar sheniskanu v'shenisgoru bi, ha'omus b'shvilecho. This kin'ah, Rashi looks at it as being the constant provocations that and the accusations. Tagar is when somebody makes accusations against another, has complaints against them. These complaints with which the nations showed their jealousy against me and provoked me on your account. Says Rashi, Kinabachol Mokom Amperment Balaz. Wherever we find the word kin'ah, jealousy or zealousness, it is in Rashi's, the French of Rashi's times, imperment, an expression of achizas alev linkom nechem. The heart is set firm and held tight to take vengeance. So Rashi now, on the comments on the grammar of verse 6, Eish shalfet heves yo, that the Rashi comments on the grammar here, which we will understand his comment if we will look in the text, where if we look at the cantillation, that's what Rashi is commenting on. The verse says, Kosher chish'el kin'o, harsh as hell is kin'ah. Rishofeho, rishpei, eish shall heves yo. Rishofeho, rishpei. The rishofeho is the coals of it, the fiery coals of that kin'ah. What are those rishafim? There's a zakef katan on the rishofeho and a zakef katan on the rishpei. So those rishofeho, her coals, the coals of that kin'ah, what are they? They are rishpei, eish shall heves yo, the coals of the fire of the blaze of Ko. So that is what Rashi is referring to in his comment here, Reshapim shel esh chazoko habo mikoich shel heves shel Gehenna. The coals of fire, the coals are burning coals of a mighty fire that comes from the power of the flame of Gehenna. Tam azokef godel anokud al rishpe, the cantillation mark of the zakef gadol upon that second word rishpe, melamdenu, that cantillation mark learns us, al tevas esh, teaches us about the word fire, shehi devukala shel heves yo. The word esh, the fire, is attached to the two words that follow it, shel heves yo. Loimar esh shel heves yo. It's the fire is the fire of God. In other words, they're as intense as may be the fire of jealousy of the nations, so is intense the fire of God. And that says the Targum on this verse. On verse 6, this is now how Israel addresses God on that day, that is the day of the Tchiat HaMetim, at the climax of the sundering of Har HaZeitim, Mount of Olives. Children of Israel say before their master, B'voi minoch, we request of you, Shavelitan Yosan Kigalafti Isko ala Liboch, put us like seal of a ring upon your heart. Kigalafti Isko al Avas Elokusach, for strongness death is the love of your God. Makanin lon, fierce is the jealousy. Vavu denatrin lon damila gumrin de esho de geinem de vro Yosei Hashem b'yom hatinyona levris almo. The intensity of the hatred that they store up against us is like the coals of fire of hell that God created on the second day of creation when He created the universe. To burn up with that fire the idolaters. So now coming to verse 7. Maim rabim lo yuchlu lechavos ezoavo. On horis lo yishtafu im yitenish es kol hoin beiso ba'avo boiz yavuzuloi. Many waters cannot quench the love, and the rivers cannot sweep her away. If a man would give all the treasure of his house for love, Boz Yavuzulo, they would despise him. That is the apparent pshat. We shall see that it goes off in different directions with our commentators. To begin again with Metzudat David, Maim Rabim, Lefishim Shiles Avo Be'esh, since he compared love to fire, Lochein Omar Maim Rabim. That's why he now comes to the abundant waters. Loshan Hanuifa B'Kibui Eish, it's an expression that is appropriate, falling appropriately on the concept of extinguishing the fire. That is to say, no incitement and no seduction, no persuasion will avail to nullify that love. If somebody were to give all of the treasure of their house on account of that love, that is to say, to try to turn it over, to turn it into hatred, to reverse Israel's love for God into the opposite, all of the people in the world will simply despise that person and mock that person. If he never had the intelligence to understand that it's impossible to cancel that fierce love with anything. This is going on the words above. She is talking to him, she's saying, it's only fit that your love should never turn aside from me. because my love for you is so very powerful. The nimshal, the meaning of the parable is completely united with the mashal. Looking now on Rashi taking this verse, because he referred to that jealousy of the nations using the expression of reshafim, the coals, nofel aleim loshen lo yichbu. For that reason, it's appropriate to speak about the waters that will not quench that love, the fire of the love, which is intense, even as the fire of the hell and of the jealousy. So the Maim Rabim, the abundant waters, the nations will not be able to quench that love. Or Nahorois Sorem Umalchem, the rivers, that is their leaders and their kings, their princes, their ministers, they will not be able to quench that love. Lo Yishtafu, the rivers will not sweep away that love. Alidei Choizig ve'emo, ve'afal yidei pitui v'hasoto. They will not do it either through strength or through intimidation, and nor through seduction and persuasion. If a person were to give all of the treasure of his house, to turn aside your love, they would despise him. Concludes Rashi on this section, all of the above, the Holy One, blessed be He, and His heavenly court, they're all giving evidence that Knesset Yisrael will not ever abandon her lover. Well, now, to conclude with the Targum on this verse, here, Targum says on the verse, many waters cannot quench the love. It is the master of the universe that is here saying to his people, the house of Israel, even if all of the nations that are compared to the waters of the sea that are very abundant, they will never be able to cause my love for you to sink. Even if all of the kings of the earth who are compared to the waters of a river that flows with great strength, even if they were all to be gathered together, they will never be able to blot you out from the world. If a person were to give all of his wealth to acquire wisdom in exile, I will return to him double in the world to come. All of the plunder that they will be plundering from the house of Gog and Magog will be to that person. Here the Targum is darshaning in this very special way, this last phrase, which is now more comprehensible in the other side of its meaning through the Targum. The first part, that is, in the words of the Targum, the Almighty telling Israel, the love that God has for will never ever be swept away. No one will sweep away Israel. If somebody is willing to pay out all of his wealth, be'avo, for love, in other words, not as the other commentators trying to exchange Israel's love for God, but if he pays a lot of money now, sacrificing to learn the wisdom of the Torah through his love of the Torah, Boz Yovuzu Lo, the Boz, the plunder of the war of Gog and Magog, Yovuzu Lo, they will send to him that plunder. So with that we conclude this Parsha, the end of the last but two Parshiot of Shir HaShirim, which we'll come to in our coming session. Oh, my dear friends, it was not possible to interrupt the flow of that session, and this is where we shall conclude for today. And with the help of God, I'll be back on this coming Sunday at 1600 hours Israel time for the next session of our learning. And in the meantime, I would like to wish you Shabbat Shalom Vorach, a good and a blessed Shabbat, and my blessings to you from Yerushalayim.